Okay, as you can see, I started to mount the cyclic servos. I got one side already done, but I wanted to show you how I did it. I just put this other one in. The kit comes with these little plastic tabs, which the screw gets bolted onto the back side of the main frame. Make sure the raised stud on these little plastic tabs are facing inwards so that the flat side, goes against the main frame as you're bolting them through. It also comes with these little carbon fiber plates that you put in front of the servo itself as you bolt them through. It's just like a washer except it's carbon. You know, it comes with the screws. I already got them through, as you can see. The combo kit, the stock servo that comes with the combo kit also comes with these little rubber washers that I installed between the main frame and the servo that goes in there. You don't have to put them in there. I just, you know, as a personal preference, I decided to slide them in there. I thought it may be a good idea to have a little cushion between the servo and the main frame, but you don't have to. Like I said, there is no spacing issue without it. I did a dry fit earlier with both the servos without the rubber washers, and when they sit in there, they don't touch, so we're okay with that. But I just wanted to point some of those things out as you're installing the servos. Okay, almost finished completing the installation of the cyclic servos. I do need to talk about the elevator servo a little bit here, because I think this information will help those people that's getting ready to put this kit together. It is a little bit different than your T-Rex 550, I should say. Just because with the Chaos, as you may know, the main frame, the space between the main frame is a little wider, allowing a setup all the way up to a 12S, which is great. You don't have to do any modification to achieve that. It comes in the box just, you know, just that way. But that said, what happens is that when you install this elevator servo, the spacing is going to be off a little bit. First things first, the screws that comes with the package that mounts the servos, out of the 12, 4 of them, you need to pay attention to this, because 4 of them, it's a little bit longer. 4 that's a little bit longer, you need to save that for the elevator servo, because what you need to do, what you will be doing is adding some extra space, and I hope you could see this, adding some extra space between the main frame on the inside and when you mount the elevator servo, allowing the servo to go a little closer to the center of the main frame, because when you have the when you connect the linkage to the swatch plate, it needs to be centered. Otherwise, it will be off a little bit. So you need to add 2 of the spacers, and you have plenty of them. The carbon spacers that comes with the kit, just use 2 of them on the inside. Finally got the tail servo in. So the tail servo is all mounted. This is what it will look like when you got it. The last 2 mounted of the carbon spacers for the tail servo. So that's bolted nice. One thing I wanted to point out when I was putting this wire through here, it doesn't come out on the outside of the frame. It stays on the inside, because there's no way it's going to be able to come out through the outside of the main frame. So the way it sits, I was, you know, I guess being overcautious, I went ahead and just added a little piece of heat shrink right at the edge there where the servo wire comes out of the servo, just to give it a little extra protection from rubbing and, you know, whatnot, so it doesn't get cut. I will add some braided wire looms at a later point, but I just wanted to point that out. As well as the frame mounting bolt, which will look like this. It's all in the same package. Also the canopy mounts. It doesn't actually call for these to be installed till page 13, but I'm going to go ahead and put them in now, which goes up here. I don't see any reason why they can't go in there right now. They're not going to be in the way of anything that we need to do here later on. So I'm gonna, since it's in the same package. Okay, the canopy mount is on. Got the canopy mounts on each side of the frame, as well as the supports here. Let's see. That's all we're gonna do on this part as far as the frame goes. I want to move on to the tail section. Basically on page 9, it shows you the install for the tail section, as well as the transmission case. A lot of people call it boom box, transmission box, whatever you want to call it, but it's the front section of the torque tube gearing assembly. Anyway, like I said, on page 9, it shows it all taken apart, as well as the tail torque tube section as well. All this is apart, needs to be assembled, but the kit comes already assembled. Basically, I went through everything and Loctite, put some thread lock on all the screws, anything that's metal to metal. I added thread lock. Torque down everything, make sure everything is tight, everything is smooth. The pitch slider, it's really, nice and smooth. Nothing's binding, so that's good on that part. Also, make sure there's thread lock in the blade grip bolts as well, inside there. Okay, on each side, you want to torque those down real well. All right, so that's done. I went ahead and slide the carbon fiber boom into the transmission case, as I mentioned. I also took the torque tube out. The bearing on here is free, so I basically put some CA glue on there and slide the bearing over it and let it dry. It also comes with this rubber bushing, which you need to fit over onto the bearing. What I will be using is some lubricant. Tri-Flow is what I use. I mean, you can use anything really. You just want to lube this rubber up really, really well, because you're going to need to slide it into the boom. And the easiest way to do this actually is, it's not included in this kit, but this clear tube that came with my CAS 600 as well as the 700, it's a great little piece of device, a tube, tool, whatever you want to call it, to use to push this into the boom. See how it lines up perfectly? And it just pushes the whole thing in there, but level. It doesn't, get cockeyed in there. So anyway, you're going to push this all the way through. Keep in mind, as you're doing this installation here, you don't want to compress it, so much where the torque tube will bind inside, because it won't spin freely. You don't want to do that. So just keep that in mind. There's a certain point where it needs to stop. If it's too tight in there, like I said, if it binds up, you just need to back the boom out of the case here, out of the front, the transmission case. Just back the boom out, just a hair, to give it a little slack, so that it's not, bind up. Okay, we got the boom with the torque tube installed. Everything went in really, really well. When installed properly, you will have a nice, smooth turning torque tube. Turning the gear, as you could tell, very smooth. No binding, no clicking noises, nothing like that. There's a hole at the end of the boom. That is gonna match up with the hole here. The hole here on the tail. So you're gonna slide this in. You shouldn't have to force it, okay? It should just slide into place like that. The bracket has a stud which drives into the hole all the way into the boom. Okay? So once you get that lined up, it should just push in, the tab should just push in without any issues. Just gotta line it up straight here, and there we go. Nice piece of carbon fiber. This will go on here like so. Okay, that's pretty much the whole assembly to the tail part. Alright, we'll get that set up. Get the bolt on here. Add a little Loctite. Give it a couple turns. Okay, that's got a little thread lock on this one as well. Okay, doing the same thing on this side. Okay. Alright, that's it. The fin is on. Okay, everything is complete. It's smooth. Smooth as it could be. Again, you could tell connecting to the front, no noise. That's it. The tail section is pretty much done right here. We're going to install this into the back of the frame. The boom is installed, as you can tell, into the frame. You want to make sure all the screws are putting in. Yeah, let's see if we get a close up on these screws. All these screws right here, that screws from the frame into the in the tail transmission case. Here's the bracket that needs to go in there. The little tabs on each side, right there, there's the left side and the right side. Okay, when they manufacture this, the tap's a little bit thicker than the slot that it needs to go into. So all you really got to do is file that down some. You could use an X-Acto knife, but I found it pretty easy actually just to use a file. And let me back this out so I can show you exactly. I just took a file like this and I went along right on the corner and I just filed away. Okay, just to make these tabs a little narrower, thinner, because as it is, it's fatter than the slot that's provided on the main frame for them to go into. So not a big deal. It took me a couple minutes to do, but you need to do that, otherwise you'll have a hell of a time trying to get that in there. Okay, we got the auto rotation bracket mounted after we got that fitted in there well. It mounts in there perfectly fine. We got this gyro mount bracket back here. We found that there was a slight play, just a little space between the main frame. I think they didn't compensate for the wider frame when they produced this bracket, so there was a slight play back and forth. And I took that play out basically by just adding a double-sided 3M tape on each side to fill that little space. There's two tabs on the plate on each side that slides into two slots on the frame, which leaves a little space in between. Well, that's why I put a little tiny strip of double-sided 3M tape, and that took up the space. And I mean, it fits there nice and snug. One other thing I want to point out as far as the tail section goes here, as far as the tail boom support, just want to point out that I added, let's see if I can see this. I added a washer in between the boom bracket and the tail boom support where the screw goes in. We found that the screws were just a bit long. I mean, not crazy long, just a little longer than it needs to be. So if you didn't add an extra space of like a washer, and this is a thin washer too, just to let you know the length of the screw, it's just, you know, longer than it needs to be. Anyway, just a thin washer like that, it's enough to take the space out when you put the screw in, from, you know, prevent it from screwing it all the way through the bracket into the tail boom, and you definitely don't want to do that. So that will solve that problem there. Other than that, everything's coming together pretty well. All the servos are in. I do still need to add the tail control rod on here, from the tail servo into the pitch slider back here for the tail. But I need to add a servo horn before I do that, and also includes a bracket with the kit. We need to mount on the boom. That's it. I think the next thing I'm going to do is install the head with the main shaft into the main bearing blocks, at the main gear into the frame. that part should be done, and then onto the motor mount, adding the motor in there, and we should be close to wrapping it up. Back. So the rotor head is installed. We got the main gear on. Everything is nice and smooth. A couple things I want to point out before we go on to the next step. Got the lock collar down. There's no play on the shaft going up and down. Basically just take the spacing out using the spacers. It came with 2 of these spacers, you know, little thin washers right here. I only end up using 1 of them. It was recommended, some of the guys mentioned that one needs to go on top of one of the main bearing blocks on the top, and also one on top of the main gear. Well, it ended up where after placing the second one on top of the main gear, I looked at how the mesh was on the auto rotation gear to the TT gear. It was fine. The spacing wasn't off that much at all. I was trying to line it up as best as possible. I don't know if you could see it on camera, but it lines up fairly well. I mean, enough that it's not overriding it too much above the TT gear. So I think it's fine, and it's smooth, and it's got plenty of the linkage rods. As you could tell, I have something here in between. I thought it was kind of cool. Ever since I did the 700 with the carbon fiber upgrade on the tubing there, I just basically took the included. I think this tube actually came for the purpose of if you're running, people still running FM radios, transmitters. This tube is, you know, meant to go on the landing skid. It feeds the wire through here, and you just kind of push this through the little hoops, the loops that comes on the landing skids. Well, I just use pieces of it. Make sure you measure it right. If you decide to do something like this, make sure you measure the distance specified on the manual, and just cut a piece of it. And I basically slide the metal rod through there and bolted the linkages on there, and basically okay, getting ready to install the push rod, tail push rod guide on the tail boom. I did a little modification to it. It works out better, I believe. I had the same issue with my 600 and 700 as well, where if you screw the included screw into the guide too much, it could actually break it. And this is what I did. So just to show you, this is what it looks like. It's a little plastic clip, clamp I should say. It's here, the tail push rod guide. The size of the head on it, the Phillips size head, it's a lot bigger than the opening of the hole for the screw to go into. What it'll do actually is force open this hole more than it is, and eventually crack this plastic section. I took the right same piece and as you can see, I filed on the back end of it. I filed it down sort of flat, leveled. If you can see off of this camera here, see how it's leveled? The reason I did that is so that I could use what this is basically a socket screw for the main grip of a 450 size. See that slides right in there. It's perfectly flush. Goes right in there, perfect. And just add the nut on the other side of it. Alright, and there you have it. That's the modified piece. And what I also did too was the gap between here, I filed it down slightly so that when you clamp it, you don't need to add any tape or anything on the tail boom in order for this grip, for this guide to not move around on the boom once you install it. So just a little quick tip as you come to this section of the build. Hope this helps. It's on here. It works well. As the servo pushes it back and forth, it's smooth. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, that's done. Again, since then we have the motor mounted. which is right there. Have to solder some connectors here, which I still have to do, to the ESC. The included combo kit comes with this 115 amp ESC. I still have to get that installed because I do not have any connectors with me, but that's the only thing that needs to be done. Obviously the radio setup and everything, but as far as the build goes, I want to, you know, go over that. So like I said, the motor's in, it's on the motor mount, got the battery tray bolted on. So as far as the build goes, it's pretty much completed at this point. Got the canopy. You have to drill the holes for the canopy nut to fit in there to get mounted on the post. At the base clip onto the bottom of the on it and get it installed. Let's see. Let's get this clip on here. It's a pretty nice snug fit, but it goes on there fine. Alright, clip it on the bottom. That's it. There you have it. There's your Chaos 550. Oh, yeah, of course. The only other thing we need to install is the main blades, the tail blades. But other than that, it's complete. And that wraps up our build. Good luck with building yours. If you have any question, please visit the chaoslounge.net. Should get most of your answers, questions answers there. So thanks for watching.